But the truth is we've still got a long way to go. We all know that. The hole we were in was so deep. There are still millions of Americans without work. There are still millions of families who can barely pay the bills or make a mortgage. Middle-class families who were struggling even before the crisis hit. And now they're just treading water. So of course people are frustrated. People are impatient with the pace of change. They want things to move a little quicker. I understand that. I'm impatient too. But the other side, they don't have an answer. All they've decided to do is to ride that frustration and that anger all the way to the ballot box. And right now you've got pundits who are saying, well, the other party supporters are more excited. They're saying they're going to turn out at higher levels. They say that all of you who worked so hard in 2008, you might not be as pumped up, might not be as energized. You might not care as much. That you might be willing to let the other folks who left the economy in a shambles go back to Washington and go back to Annapolis. Well, Maryland, I think the pundits are wrong. But it's up to you to prove them wrong. Don't make me look bad now. I'm betting on you, not on them. But it's up to you to defy the conventional wisdom. It's up to you to show the pundits that you care too much to let this country fall backwards. You want it to keep moving forward. That you're ready to fight for our future. So make no mistake, this election is a choice. And that choice could not be clearer. I mean, think about it. This is not as if candidates in the other party were offering new ideas. They didn't go meditate and say, boy, we really messed up. Let's try to figure out if we can do some things better. That's not what happened. It's not as if they've changed their agenda since the last time they ran Washington or the last time they ran Annapolis. In fact, the chairman of one of their campaign committees promised that if Republicans take control of Congress, they will follow the exact same agenda they pursued during the last administration. That's what they said. And we all know what that agenda was. Basically, you've been there, done that. Basically, what they're saying is, we're going to cut taxes mostly for millionaires and billionaires. Then we're going to cut regulations for special interests. We're going to cut back on investments in education and clean energy and research and technology. And basically the idea is that if we just put blind faith in the marketplace and if we let corporations play by their own rules and we leave everybody else to fend for themselves, then America is going to somehow grow and prosper. What does this young lady say? Been there, done that. I mean, there's a problem with their approach, which is we tried it and it didn't work. It didn't work for middle-class families who saw their incomes fall by 5% when they were in power. Middle-class incomes fell. That's not, don't take my word for it. That's the Wall Street Journal. Meanwhile, your costs for everything from health care to college tuition went up when they were in charge. Job growth, when they were in charge, was slower than any time since World War II. Think about that. They weren't creating jobs. They're going around talking about jobs now. They had 8 years. They took a record surplus left by President Bill Clinton. They came back with a record deficit by the time I took office. Now they're out there talking about deficit reduction. We saw what you had to do with the deficit. It didn't work when there was a free-for-all on Wall Street that led to a crisis that we're still struggling through today. I bring this up not to relitigate the past. I just don't want to relive the past. I don't want to go through that mess again. That's the philosophy the other side wants to bring to Washington and wants to bring to Annapolis if they win in November. That's the philosophy. philosophy that Martin's opponent espouses. Republicans might have given it a new name. They called it the Pledge to America. But it's the same old snake oil they've been peddling for years. Same old stuff. Same old stuff. Now, I want everybody to take a look at this Pledge to America. It's interesting. They put it out with great fanfare, but now nobody's really talking about it. But let's examine their pledge. For starters, it turns out the pledge was actually written, in part, by a former lobbyist for AIG and ExxonMobil. You can't make this stuff up. All right, so they helped write this thing. The centerpiece of the pledge, their big idea, is a $700 billion tax cut for the wealthiest 2% of Americans. That's their big idea. So, how many folks here make more than $250,000 a year? Just show of hands. All right. You need to donate to Martin O'Malley's campaign. For the rest of you, their idea isn't much. I mean, these are the folks who want to lecture us on fiscal responsibility. They want to borrow $700 billion. And then they want to give out tax cuts worth an average of $100,000 to millionaires and billionaires. And when you ask them, well, where are you going to get this $700 billion? They don't have it. They don't have an answer. They don't have an answer. They don't know. I guess we'd have to borrow it from China. But when you look at the Pledge to America, it turns out they do have an idea about how to pay for a small portion of it. They want to cut education by 20%. That's a cut that would reduce financial aid for 8 million college students, including a whole bunch of college students right here at BSU. Now I want to just focus on this for a minute because here in Maryland, you understand how important education is to our economy, how important it is to our future. Martin O'Malley knows that too. His opponent raised college tuition in this state by 40% when he was in charge. This is at a time when the economy was doing better. Now, even in the toughest of times over the last 2 years, Martin O'Malley froze in-state tuition. So he kept the cost of his school and other schools affordable for Maryland's families. And thanks to his unprecedented investment in Maryland's education, as I said before, you've been ranked the best when it comes to public schools the last 2 years in a row. That's what Martin O'Malley does. He walks the walk, doesn't just talk the talk. But we can't maintain this progress if our opponents have their way. At a time when the education of our country's citizens is one of the biggest predictors of economic success, they think it's more important to give another tax raise to folks who don't need them and weren't even asking for them than to invest in our young people. Let me ask you, I want to ask my Republican friends a question here. Do you think China's cutting back on education right now? You think South Korea is making it harder for its citizens to get a college education? Those countries aren't playing for second place. And guess what? The United States does not play for second place. We play for first place. We're going to make investments in you. As long as I am president, and as long as Martin O'Malley is your governor, we will not allow politicians in Washington or Annapolis sacrifice your education for tax cuts we can't afford. That is the choice in this election.